Hi everyone, Rene Bastarache here. Do you have difficulty sleeping at night? Did you know that there are things that you can do to make the process simpler? The following 6 steps can be the difference between falling asleep easily and tossing and turning all night long. So let's get started. Number 1, very simple, but most people overlook it. Go to sleep at a decent hour. So many times, and I've done it myself, you go to bed at 12, 1, 2 in the morning because you were doing something important, you had a project you were working on, or maybe just because you liked a television show, and you get to bed and you start feeling guilty that you got to bed so late. Oh, I'm not going to be able to get up in the morning, and you're worried about that so much that when you wake up in the morning, you're exhausted. It's like a self-fulfilling prophecy. You say, I'm going to be so tired when I get up. So what are you telling your mind? Be so tired when I get up. So get to sleep at a decent hour to ensure that you have enough sleep. Number 2, don't eat at least 3 hours before bedtime. Now, if you're going to bed really early, you can cut that down to 2 hours, but the normal time, at least 3 hours before bedtime, don't eat, because heavy foods, sugars, even alcohol can keep you up. You have that in your stomach, you lie down, you might be having a hard time breathing, digesting, sometimes it gives you heartburn, so eat well before you go to bed. Number 3, update your to-do list. Very important. List everything that's on your mind before you go to bed so you don't have to remember it. How many times when you go to bed you're thinking, oh, I got to do this tomorrow, I got to do that, I hope I remember this, what if I forget that? So take a notepad with you, put it on your nightstand by your bed, and before you close your eyes, write down everything you need to remember for the next day, everything on your to-do list. That way you can let go of it and it'll be there in the morning for you to look at and refresh your memory. Number 4, darken your room. If your room is dark, or at least fairly dark, you're going to sleep a lot better than if you have bright lights on. 1 night light would be fine. You don't need to have 4 or 5 of them. Just try it, see how it works for you. Number 5, remove as many electronic devices in the room as possible. Okay, you might have the night light, you might have your radio, a clock radio is okay, but how about one of those wind-up radios? Okay, the least electronics you have in the room, the easier it's going to be for you to sleep for some reason. I mean, there's all the technical reasons, and I'm not going to get into them. You can find them online if you want to do a search. But you don't need to have a television and a radio and a coffee maker and a bread maker, and get as many electronics out of the room as possible and see how much better you'll sleep. And number 6, focus on only one thing when you go to sleep. When you focus on one thing, yeah, it eventually becomes boring. You can relax, you can rest, and doze off. But when you're thinking about 5 or 6 things, you're thinking about work, you're thinking about your to-do list, you're thinking about what you're going to have for dinner, you're thinking about where you're going to go tomorrow night, you're thinking about what you're going to do with your friends. There's so much going on, you get overwhelmed, and eventually you get up, maybe go work on the computer, sit down, watch some TV because you can't sleep. Think about one thing, and it's going to help you to just let go. So what can you think about? How about your breathing? As you're lying down in bed, just count your breaths. Take an inhale, an exhale, and at the end of the exhale, count 1. Inhale, exhale, 2. Count your breaths. Even better, count them backwards. Count starting at 100 and counting down. It's always better to count from higher to lower than lower to higher. Why? If you count from low to high, especially if you're analytical people like to finish a task. Well, you're never going to finish counting your breaths. You're going to be 3 o'clock in the morning going 7,200,325 breaths. 7 million, you'll never get to sleep. But if you're one of those people that have to finish a task, if you start at 100, you'll get to 1 and go to sleep. But most people, by the time they get to 60 or 50, it's so boring that you can just let yourself go. You don't have to finish a job and go to sleep. Now, have you ever heard people talk about counting sheep to go to sleep? Okay, counting sheep does work if you count downward. Start with 100 sheep and imagine them jumping over that fence. 99 sheep, jumping over that fence. 98 sheep. Going downwards is okay, but if you're counting up, 1 sheep, 2 sheep, oh, it's getting a little nerve-wracking. 3, 4, 5 sheep, oh gosh, I can't keep them all in this pen, they're getting away. You get up to 20 and 30 sheep. What if they attack me? There's so many of those creatures, you see what I mean? The more sheep you have, the more problem you have, the more way they could escape, the more on the edge that the wolf can get. So it can be a disaster. It can be just stressful. Always start from whatever number and go down, and hopefully you'll be asleep by the time you hit that number, by the time you hit 0. If you're not, start with 100 and do it a second time. But I like the breathing better. Breathing is a little bit less stressful than animals that can run away and be unpredictable. So that's it for today. If you'd like to see a written outline of this or any of our programs, you can see them at our blog at americanschoolofhypnosis.com/blog. Thanks for listening, and be sure to subscribe to us so that way when we have a new program you can be notified right away that we just posted a new one as soon as it becomes available.